She called 911 to kick me off my own land. A screaming about chickens and fake violations. But when she saw my badge, her face froze. You see that cabin? The one by the lake with the vegetable garden and the hens pecking around. That's been in my family for 3 generations. My grandfather built it. My father taught me to fish there. I spent my weekends fixing up the old dock, watching the sunrise over the water with a cup of black coffee and listening to the soft clucking of Henrietta and her sisters. But last Tuesday, as I was planting tomatoes, Karen showed up. She rolled up in a shiny SUV with an HOA sticker on the back, stepped out in her red blouse, and started screaming at the chickens.
Tekasi chickens are illegal. You realizing illegal hens?
I stood there, wiping dirt off my hands, confused. Mom, you're yelling at my hens. She shoved a paper in my face, trembling with self-righteous rage. Some fake. Emergency OA violation. Document with a forged seal. You're trespassing on community land. The AOA now owns this property. You need to vacate. Or I'm calling 911. My hands tightened around the handle of my shovel, but I kept my voice calm. Ma'am, I'm the owner, and this isn't OA land. This is private property. But she wasn't listening. She pulled out her phone and dialed 9011, loud enough so I could hear. Yes, police. I need officers down here immediately. We have a trespasser refusing to leave. He's armed with a shovel and threatening my life. I looked down at the shovel in my hand, the same one I used to dig compost. Threatening. Really. Within minutes, 2 men in cheap tactical vests showed up, pretending to be inspectors with Community Compliance Authority. One had bolt cutters. The other had a clipboard and sunglasses he clearly thought made him look official. Henrietta clucked in protest as they tried to open the gate. Step aside. Sir, we have an order to inspect your premises, one of them said, smirking. I took a deep breath, pulled out my phone, and started recording. The camera caught the faces of those fake inspectors, the fake papers, the trembling chickens, and Karen standing there with her arms folded, glaring at me. Then I reached into my jacket and pulled out my badge. I'm a retired sheriff. The moment Karen's eyes saw that badge, the color drained from her face. You can't. She stuttered. I held up the badge for the camera, panned it to the fake inspectors, and spoke loud enough for everyone to hear. You are trespassing on private property, impersonating officers, and attempting to enforce a fraudulent order. You are under citizen's arrest. Karen's mouth dropped open. The clipboard inspector took a step back, and the one with bolt cutters froze. Henrietta clucked again, louder, as if she approved. And that was just the beginning. Karen's scream was so loud it startled the chickens, sending Henrietta flapping across the tomatoes as feathers floated in the bright morning sun. You can't do this! You can't arrest me! I am TEOA! She shrieked, pulling against the officer's grip. I kept the camera rolling, holding my badge steady for the fake inspectors to see. They glanced at each other, then at Karen. And you could see the fake authority draining out of them as quickly as the blood drained from their faces. You heard me, boys. Step away from the gate and drop the bolt cutters now, I said. Calm but firm, just like I had on calls back in my sheriff days. They hesitated, looking for an escape, but they'd boxed themselves in. The driveway was blocked by Karen's shiny SUV, and the police cruiser I'd called earlier was rolling in, blue lights flashing in the daylight. Karen turned, eyes wide. Wait, you called the real police. On me! On you, your fake inspectors, and your forged papers, ma'am. she sputtered. But I'm the HOA president. You can't. The real deputy stepped out of his cruiser, taking in the scene an old sheriff with a badge in one hand. At a camera in the other, two fake inspectors frozen in place, Karen screaming, and chickens pecking around like it was just another morning. Jim, everything all right here? Deputy Miller asked, nodding at me. We'd worked together for years. I nodded back. We've got impersonation of officers, trespassing, attempted fraud, and a disturbance. Think you can handle transport? He smirked. Oh, I'd be glad to. Karen tried to backpedal. No. You don't understand. I was just trying to enforce community standards. Look at the chickens. The smell. Mom, we're going to need you to calm down, Deputy Miller said, pulling out his cuffs. But Karen wasn't done. She lunged for the clipboard one of the fake inspectors was holding, trying to rip it out of his hands, screaming about property values and HOA bylaws. I stepped back, keeping the camera steady. Every word she screamed, every lie she told, was going on record. And then, in the middle of her rant, she slipped on a tomato, falling back with a thud, feathers sticking to her red blouse as the chickens scattered again. Henrietta strutted past her, clucking in what felt like victory. Deputy Miller cuffed her gently, reading her rights as she wailed about lawsuits and calling the governor. One of the fake inspectors tried to walk away, but Miller's partner grabbed him by the collar. The bolt cutters clanged to the ground as the morning breeze ruffled the lake's surface, and the sun shone down on the cabin my grandfather built, the cabin she tried to steal. As Miller loaded Corinne and her fake friends into the cruiser, I turned the camera to my face. Let this be a message to every OA Karen out there. You don't own what you think you do. You can't bully your neighbors, fake documents, or call 911 to enforce your control. Not on my land. Not today. The hens pecked around my boots. The tomato plants swayed gently, and the lake shimmered like it was proud. But what we uncovered next would blow this little HOA scam wide open. The cruiser had barely pulled away, Karen's screams echoing down the gravel road, when I noticed something strange. One of the hens, Henrietta, was pecking at a crumpled paper that had fallen near the tomato patch. I bent down, the daylight sharp on the page, and saw the headering. State Water Division. Emergency order. Only it wasn't real. I felt that old sheriff's instinct kick in. The one that told me when something smelled worse than chicken coops in July. I unfolded the paper carefully, revealing a half-dozen forged signatures, acclaiming the HOA had authority to inspect and redirect water from my land to community needs. Community needs my foot, I muttered, scanning the document as Henrietta clucked beside me. This wasn't about noise complaints, chickens, or even the HOA's petty power trips. It was about water. Deputy Miller returned, stepping out of his cruiser, his hat in his hands. Jim, we found more of these in Karen's SUV, he said, holding a stack of similar emergency orders. She's been running this scam all over the county, faking water rights to drain properties, then threatening folks with lines if they didn't pay to get it back. I felt my jaw tighten. So that's why she wanted me off this land so bad. Henrietta gave a triumphant cluck, almost like she understood we'd found the real reason behind the 911 calls, the fake cops, the fake inspectors. This wasn't just Karen trying to bully a neighbor. This was organized theft, using OOA authority as a weapon, draining water, and draining bank accounts. I flipped the camera around, speaking directly into the lens, the bright morning sun making the lake behind me sparkle. This is bigger than one Karen. This is about every small town HOA president who thinks they can get away with stealing from people who've worked their whole lives to build something real. They think if they push hard enough, scream loud enough, fake enough papers, they can take what they want. I paused, letting the breeze and the soft clucks of the hens fill the moment. But not today, not on this land, not on my watch. That day, I handed everything over to the feds. Every forged document, every video, every recording. The moment they saw Karen's forged state documents, they opened an investigation. By sunset, unmarked SUVs were parked near the lake road, federal agents in windbreakers knocking on doors, seizing files, freezing accounts. Karen's scam was over. But before the feds left, one agent turned to me and said, "Sir, it's rare to find someone who fights back the right way. You just helped take down something much bigger than a petty OA scam." I looked down at Henrietta, who pecked confidently at the gravel. "Sometimes it takes a stubborn hen and a stubborn old man to set things right," I said. The lake glowed gold under the evening sun, the water calm again. Karen came here to evict me with fake authority. But she ended up evicting herself from the life she used to control. And Henrietta, she just wanted another tomato. A Karen thought it was over when the feds took her away. She didn't realize her real day of reckoning was coming. In court, in daylight, where every lie would be ripped open for the whole town to see, the courthouse was packed that morning. Old farmers, lake neighbors, veterans with hats in their hands, and the local deputy who nodded at me with quiet respect. Karen arrived in her red blazer, hair perfect, eyes darting around the room for someone to save her. But there were no fake inspectors here. No OA badge could save her now. The judge, a tall man with a calm but piercing stare, read the charges aloud: fraud, impersonation, attempted theft, conspiracy. Karen's lawyer tried to interrupt, claiming it was misunderstanding and community enforcement, and the judge lifted a hand, silencing him, then turned to Caring. "Mayim, you have used your position to terrorize your neighbors, forge documents, and orchestrate a theft operation under the disguise of community service." Karen opened her mouth to protest, but the judge wasn't done. "You called 911 to remove a man from land he legally owned, using false claims and forged orders. And in doing so, you tried to destroy a life. You failed, but your intent was clear." Karen's lip trembled. She glanced back at me, hoping I'd back down, hoping for a sign of mercy. I gave her none. And the courtroom was silent except for the sound of the judge's gavel tapping softly on the desk. "This court sentences you to 5 years, with additional charges pending from the federal investigation. Bail is denied." Karen's scream, sharp and helpless. I filled the room as deputies cuffed her in daylight, in front of everyone she used to bully. The same hands she tried to use to steal from others were now bound behind her. Outside the courthouse, the sun shone bright on the lake. The breeze gentle as I stepped out, holding Henrietta in a small crate I'd brought to town. Kids and neighbors came up, patting my back, thanking me for standing up. One old veteran shook my hand, saying, "You didn't just protect your land, Jim. You protected all of us." I nodded, humbled, watching the lake shimmer, knowing my grandfather's cabin was safe, the community was safe, and Karen's reign of fear was over. I turned to my camera for the final message. To every HOA Karen out there, thinking they can steal, lie, and bully to get what they want, let this be your warning. We're not afraid of your fake papers, your calls to 911, or your intimidation tactics. We stand for what's right, and we stand together. A Henrietta gave a soft cluck, pecking at a piece of tomato on the ground. And sometimes it only takes a stubborn hen and a stubborn neighbor to bring your empire down. The lake was peaceful again. My cabin stood tall. Karen was gone. And Henrietta. She was ready for another adventure.